It started like any other quiet morning on the ranch. The sun was rising, the dew still clinging to the tall grass, and my wife was finishing her routine walk around the property, checking fences and gates. She had parked near the driveway, just as she always did, when suddenly a convoy of HOA security vehicles rolled up. At first, I thought it was a routine inspection. But then I saw Karen at the front, shouting into her phone like she was directing a military operation. Before anyone could explain, two men in uniforms that looked official stepped toward my wife, blocking her way to the gate. "Ma'am, you need to come with us," one of them barked. My wife raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me? On what authority?" "HOA regulations," the man replied. I was already sprinting toward the scene, but even before I arrived, my wife had calmly pulled out her badge and ID. It was a badge few would recognize outside federal circles. She was an FBI director, a fact Karen apparently had never bothered to check. The men froze. Karen's jaw dropped. I called the cops. She has to leave. She's trespassing." My wife, composed and unwavering, said, "You're going to need a lot more than your HOA complaints to touch me." With a swift motion, she instructed the two security officers to step back. They hesitated, glanced at each other, and then quickly backed down, realizing that they were completely out of their league. Karen, furious, tried a new tactic. She dialed 911. "Yes, this is Karen. I need immediate backup. She's trespassing." Before she could finish, I stepped up, calm, measured, and confident. I spoke directly into her phone. "Karen, this is going to sound familiar. The FBI director you're trying to intimidate is standing right here. Anything you report at this point will be immediately verified, and I promise it will not go in your favor." There was silence on the other end of the line. I could practically hear her brain stalling as she realized the gravity of her mistake. Karen stammered, But I continued. "By the way, your HOA's enforcement powers don't extend to federal personnel. Nor do they extend to me, by the way. Let's avoid any further complications, shall we?" At that moment, the real weight of the situation hit Karen. All her carefully staged intimidation tactics, all her attempts to assert control over the neighborhood, crumbled instantly. She realized she had not only misjudged my wife but underestimated the consequences of crossing us. To finish the lesson, I casually drove my truck to block her SUV from leaving until she promised to remove all HOA security patrols from our property permanently. Her face was red, a mixture of anger and sheer panic, as she signed the acknowledgement with trembling hands. By the time the sun was fully up, the chaos had subsided. My wife returned to her routine, unfazed. Karen, on the other hand, had become a living cautionary tale for the HOA board. Word spread quickly. Never challenge federal authority, and certainly never try to intimidate someone who could legally enforce the law with a single phone call. The moral was simple. Arrogance and entitlement can't overcome preparedness, authority, and knowledge. Karen learned it the hard way, and I made sure the lesson stuck. By the end of the day, my wife had her coffee, I had checked the fences, and the HOA had a new rule quietly passed. No one dares approach our driveway unannounced again.